There we go. Hi, my name is Lance Gray, and this is my audience for my formal informative speech. Alright, there we go. So, Ebola. It's the new disease everyone's been talking about and a big outbreak in America. Ebola is a viral disease that it belongs to a family of diseases that cause severe fever. There's lots of symptoms of Ebola, which a lot of people think they're just the common cold or flu symptoms, which is like muscle weakness, diarrhea, stomach pain, and severe vomiting. Ebola is one that the symptoms are so easy to overlook. The minor symptoms such as like red eyes, throat soreness, internal bleeding, which you can't see, which is hemorrhaging. That's where Ebola gets its name, Ebola hemorrhagic fever. Ebola was found first in 1976, but humans didn't really transmit it at all. People believed it was from goats, primates, or even bats. But the outbreak that everyone's been talking about this year was started back in 2 years ago in Guinea. Holly Yam of CNN Health, she found an article that they researched who patient 0 was, and it was a 2-year-old from Guinea that they believed there was a remote village that he lived in, and the animals gave it to him, which then he transmitted to everybody in his village, which then people started going over there to work there, and they brought it back to the U.S. It's really infectious, but it's not really that contagious. That's saying Ebola, like a single strand of Ebola, can cause anyone to die from it, even the smallest strand, but it's not very contagious because it's only direct contact. So this new viral disease, Ebola, is direct contact transmission based, which means that it's only spread by direct contact through body fluids, infected objects, and body tissue. So the CDC website said that direct contact with body fluids is like the main transmission of Ebola. They said that's like blood, output, excretion, and sexual contact. Blood is the big one in hospitals, and so is output, like feces and urine. That's why they're having personnel wear double gloves and gowns to protect from that. Also, excretions, which is like sweat, spitting, vomiting. You can't really control that, and that's why they're having healthcare workers wear a mask and eye protection, because the patient just randomly does that, like the projectile vomiting, and you can't really control that. So then, next is like direct contact through infected objects, which is like needles and syringes, and any like healthcare worker that is unprotected. So the needles and syringes are pretty easy to not dispose of correctly, and that transmits Ebola really easily without not disposing of those. And then unprotected healthcare workers would be a lot of people come into the hospital undiagnosed, and if you don't have the proper attire on, which is like gown, gloves, a mask, you a lot of times can transmit Ebola. The last thing that for direct contact of Ebola would be through body tissue, which is through broken skin areas and open mucous membranes. And the broken skin areas are like wounds, any tears or scratches in your skin, and then the open mucous membranes are your mouth, eyes, and nose. So anything that is open through that can transmit Ebola. So you've got to wear the mask and the gloves to protect all that. Lastly, Ebola, the only reason it's direct contact is because it's not droplet or airborne transmitted. Saying that it's not droplet spread is droplet is through respiratory, and Ebola is not in the respiratory system, so they don't think it's droplet spread. And also, Ebola is not airborne because a lot of people now are thinking that Ebola is airborne, but according to Aaron Klein of WMD.com, he talks about the rumors of that and says that Ebola, the particles are too small to travel that far in sneezes, so that it's only transmitted through direct contact and not through airborne. So the main ways to prevent against Ebola, even though there's no vaccine, They say the incubation period is 2 to 21 days. So after 21 days, if you don't show any symptoms, you are good to go and you won't have Ebola. But the biggest thing they say is limit contact with anyone with Ebola, or especially direct contact, because that's how Ebola is spread. Thank you.